Today's headlines. Tigray Inter-Religious Council calls for a ceasefire and peace talks. A prayer ceremony held for the victims of the Aksum massacre at Mariam Zion Church. Three children died due to starvation in Isra Addi Wajarat, southeastern Tigray. Hello and welcome. This is Tigray Mass Media Agency. I'm Sablor Klama with today's news. Here are the details. Inter-Religious Council, composed of religious leaders from different religion, including leaders of the Orthodox Tawahedo Church, Muslim leaders, and the Evangelical Church, have called for an immediate ceasefire and the start of peace talks. The Council also called for all foreign forces to leave Tigray and an end to the siege that has so far been hampering the delivery of aid and restoration of basic public services like telecommunication and banking services. The religious leaders expressed their deep gratitude to aid organizations and expressed their condolences for aid workers who have lost their lives on the line of duty. The religious leaders called the war one of genocidal intentions and saying that the people of Tigray have been subject to starvation, displacement, and deprivation of basic public services. A memorial service for the victims of Aksum massacre was held at Mariam Zion Church this past weekend, where families and friends of the victims of the horrific crime finally had the opportunity to commemorate their loved ones. The Aksum massacre, committed on November 28 and 29 by Eritrean troops in the presence of members of the Ethiopian forces, was one of the most horrific crimes committed in Tigray. Our reporters were on the ground to observe the religious ceremony. Abil Tsigabu has more on that.
The capital for the ancient civilization of Aksum and a holy city for the Orthodox Church was the scene of a horrific crime last November, where Eritrean soldiers went house to house killing unarmed civilians for 2 days. Almost a year after the massacre, families and friends of this victim, alongside the residents of Aksum, held a memorial service at the Mariam Zion Church.
This is my younger brother. His name is Alim Gabrahid, and he was a lecturer in a university. He had spent all day home before he got shot in the gate. He begged them. He told them that he is an innocent civilian. They ordered him to lie down and shot him. Many youngsters were pulled by carts with no sins of their own, with no fault of themselves. Civilians fell down as leaves. It's the Eritrean troops that have done this, and it's Abiy. They came and knocked hard. The boy opened the door and he was shot. His sister shouted, and they silenced her too. My son Lu'ul and my daughter Adiam, they were left unburied for 3 days. They are very cruel. I have no words to explain the situation. It was very sad. What you see is my brother. My father was also injured.
The Archbishop of the Central Tigray and the member of the Synod of the Ethiopian Church, His Holiness Abuna Merk-Eres, remarked that the victims are martyrs and that we all have to work for peace.
We should inquire for peace. Patience is crucial. Patience is good. The people of Tigray have waited patiently for the past 2 years. God knows everything that happened here. God observes. God sees everything. We should tell the atrocities to God.
3 children died due to starvation in Isra Addi Wajarat, southeastern Tigray. 450 children in the district are said to be suffering from medium malnutrition, while 96 children are suffering from severe malnutrition and receiving treatments at Bahar Tzaba Health Center. Reporter Darasa Brana has more on that.
Bahri Sabah Health Center in Adi Isra Wajarat is one of the few health facilities in Tigray, still able to provide health care services to the many in need. Bahri Sabah currently has 96 children under its care, but has already lost the lives of 3. Mothers say their children are at the brink of death.
He was at a normal weight, weighing an average of 11 to 12 kilograms, but now he has reduced to 7 kilograms.
3 children lost their lives, and 3 others are under follow-up. Out of the 96 children, 56 of them are recovered, and 80 of them are under follow-up.
We have never faced hard times like this in this district. Within 2-month time period, 450 people are in need of humanitarian emergency, and 96 others are in severe acute shortage of food. As a result of our survey, we are in a catastrophic situation. We call upon stakeholders to help us prevent this situation from escalating.
As the siege has made it impossible for food or other medical supplies to reach Tigray.
Patients with chronic diseases at Aidar Hospital are suffering from severe illness at the hospital, as the hospital has run out of medicines due to the siege on Tigray. Data from the hospital revealed that 8 kidney patients have died so far, and hundreds are under severe complications. Abraha Gabratinsay has more.
The siege on Tigray, targeting public services and supplies, has weakened an already collapsed health system in Tigray. Health facilities are running out of stock for essential health supplies, and patients have already started to die. Dr. Ephraim Berhe is a nephrologist at Aidar Hospital. He says the blockage of humanitarian aid, the closing of public infrastructure, including banks and communication service in Tigray, have made it impossible for the hospital to provide basic service to patients with chronic diseases.
The
blockage of roads and other public service in Tigray have resulted in severe shortage of medical supplies. Medicine and medical equipment of kidney patients is completely depleted. Due to this, 8 kidney patients have died so far, and 10 patients returned home as we could not provide them with medical service they needed. This would mean they would die helpless. According to Dr. Kibron Gebreselassie, technical director of Aidar Hospital, there are over 10,000 patients in Tigray suffering from diabetes and in need of medical care. We have about 10,000 diabetic patients in Tigray. We are not able to provide medicine. It means we're sentencing them to death. Patients with hypertension, kidney problem, diabetics, and heart problem are all on the blink of death because of lack of medicine. Patients with emergency cases are also facing the same fate because they could not get first aid as a hospital has run out of medical equipment. Other patients who have been taking medicine in our hospital for many years and who have been leading regular life are waiting their death because of lack of medication. It's heartbreaking. The situation is claiming the lives of both chronic patients and patients with emergency cases. Patients at Aidar Hospital include those suffering from kidney failure, diabetes, and hypertension. The closure of public services along with the siege on Tigray that has practically stalled all delivery of medical supplies into Tigray has put the lives of thousands of people at risk. We cannot get bank service, we cannot have money, and all this together with severe shortage of medicine have put our lives at risk. Before now, I was attending my medication here at Aidar Hospital, but my medication interrupted from time to time. Now it's entirely stopped. I'm afraid I will die if it continues like this.
I am a
diabetic patient. I have been taking medication for the past 10 years. I am alive only because I was able to receive medical care. Currently, my medication has stopped and I'm afraid I will die if I'm not able to get any medication. I am kidney patient, but there is no medication available for my condition at the hospital. This happened to us because of the blockage of roads and other public services in Tigray by federal government. This would cost us our lives.
I used to get dialysis twice a week, but now I could not get even once. This is happening to us because enemies have blocked entry of medicine to Tigray. The problem is worse in the dialysis room. Sister Atadagide is also a clinical nurse at Idle Hospital, and she explains the problem in this way.
People are dying because of hunger on one side and shortage of medicine on the other side. Patients with the chronic diseases need to take food and medicine on a daily basis. If the situation doesn't change, it will claim the lives of hundreds of patients.
Tigray is currently housing over 2.2 million of internally displaced persons, mostly housed in repurposed public facilities such as schools and government facilities. The IDPs had mostly depended on host communities and non-government organizations to provide them with essentials such as food and medical supplies, but that has discontinued since the start of the siege at the end of June. That has obstructed the delivery of food aid, blocked commerce, and bank services, incapacitating both aid organizations and host communities. Our reporters visited Lakatit Isra Celeste Secondary School in Magala, where hundreds of IDPs are sheltered and have run out of food and medical supplies. Haile Gabru has more on that.
According to the Disaster and Risk Management Office, there are 2.2 million internally displaced persons and 4.6 million people in urgent need of food aid, in the absence of which millions are expected to perish.
Due to the blockade of network and transport by Abiy Ahmed's government, children, mothers, and parturient women are experiencing malnutrition.
We are hungry. Extremely hungry. It's so traumatic. The children yell and cry due to starvation. Personally, I had a serious health problem and I'm in danger. Starvation kills. We all are starving.
The IDP at Lekati 23 say they are looking to the international community to put sufficient pressure on Abiy Ahmed to ensure the entry of food aid and the restoration of basic public services.
The hard-working people of Tigray, the generous people of Tigray, the selfless people of Tigray are now in this condition. The world has to go beyond and make serious decisions.
It's because of the barbaric and fascist government of Abiy Ahmed that we are facing this. The world community wouldn't turn their back to us. Our diasporas, our people, all Tigrayan helped us. We also want them to keep helping.
But the IDP say that they are found strangers in one another.
We have an excellent culture of understanding each other. We have no people with greedy mentality, such as, if I get my lunch and my dinner today, I don't care about others. We have no people like that here. Even those who have some relatives around are sharing what they received from others.
The war in Tigray has mainly been marked by the killing of civilians and the destruction of public property, including schools and health facilities. Those most affected by the destruction of health facilities have been pregnant women and infants, leading to exponential increase of maternal and infant mortality, including high rate of malnutrition. Let's take a look at the report. The presence of Ethiopian, Eritrean, and Amhara forces in Tigray since the start of the conflict in November has been marked with unspeakable destruction on public property, especially medical facilities. And those primarily affected have been pregnant women and infants unable to receive proper medical treatments during labor. This is Hamlin Fistula Center, established by Dr. Catherine Hamlin, a pioneer in fistula surgery, according to UNFPA, to support women suffering with fistula in Tigray, a medical condition that develops when a pregnant mother is unable to receive medical attention during labor.
Enemies entered housing on November 23. My family carried me to a clinic where I was referred to a nearby hospital, which had been occupied by enemy soldiers at the time. So I went back to the clinic and spent the night there. There were no doctors at the clinic. They had run away to save their lives. On the first day of my labor, my baby died inside me. There was no ambulance to call or hospital to go to. I was in a lot of pain. After staying home for 2 weeks, I went to Ida Referral Hospital. I couldn't walk. I needed someone to help me move in and out of my bed. I am in this situation because I couldn't get an ambulance. Even if I were to reach a hospital, all of them are either destroyed or looted. There was no medication or even doctors, so my mother helped me give birth at home.
Tigray's health system, previously one of the best in Ethiopia, has completely collapsed. The siege on Tigray that started on June 28 has meant that hospitals like Hamlin Fistula centers are running out of basic medical supplies and will no longer be able to give care to their patients.
I suffered so much. If the enemies had not entered, I would have gotten the medical help that I needed. All of the problems happened because there was no peace. I saw a lot of mothers die on the way, but luckily I'm alive. The Eritrean soldiers and Amhara forces used to attack ambulances and really any car that moved. My family was scared and wanted to hide me in the forests, but I gave birth at home. I was in labor for 7 days, then my baby died inside my womb. The situation was very difficult. We couldn't sleep at all because we were very scared. Even I went into a hiding inside the forests while I was pregnant. There was no medical help. That's why I'm suffering right now. After I came to this center, they gave me proper medical assistance. But now, their hands are tied because there is no medical supplies entering since roads are blocked.
Dr. Melaku Abraha, a medical director at the center, describes the difficulties of giving medical care while under siege.
Communication ሲቋረጥ ልትገዛው ማትችል ነው በጣም ውድ ነው
After the communication shut down, we couldn't buy the medications. They are very expensive and we cannot afford that. It is also impossible to bring them from Addis Ababa because of the siege. Our main concerns includes materials such as special sewing silk, special plastics important for treating the patients.
Dr. Malaku also implored the diaspora community to be the voice to the voiceless.
እነዚህም ፊስቱላ ደግሞ voiceless ናቸው እዚህ እኛ ነን የምናወራላቸው እንጂ ማንም ሰው ስለ ፊስቱላ ያወራ
The fistula patients in the center are voiceless. People do not talk about fistula. What happened to them is the peak of the violence. People have to be aware of fistula and its implications. The Tigray and diaspora community needs to be a voice and tell the world about infant mortality and other horrific events. This is so that help could arrive on time.
That concludes our news for the evening. See you back here on Thursday. Until then, have a nice time.